What is going on, guys? Carter here with Edge Mindset. We're taking a look at another Borka, a beautiful, beautiful Borka stitch. This is actually the first Borka that I purchased. I know I uploaded the video with the SBSP first. I had actually had this for a little while. I was, I don't know, when I got it, I think I was sick or something was going on and it just didn't make sense to do an unboxing. And so I just didn't do a video on it until now. And of course, you know, the stitch isn't anything new. At this point, it's pretty dang iconic. But I will say that despite me having pretty high expectations, I guess, the price point on these are very, very high. And they're pretty high regarded. They've got a lot of, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like hype behind them. So I was a little skeptical getting it. I'm like, is it really worth the money? Is it really as good as people say? You know, what's the deal with these stitches? And I got to say, I am very impressed. This is one of my favorite knives. Is it worth the money? No, not at all. But it is worth a good amount of money. Maybe half. It's worth half. Objectively, probably half what these go for. They are really hyped up in price, but I think that's going to be coming down. Wow, I'm getting off topic here. So, before we start, let's do the full thing. Let's do specs. Let's do weight. Let's do size. Let's hang out. Let's have a good time. Let's talk about this stitch. It's a beautiful knife. Really, really cool. For those that don't know, what is this? Okay, this is the, beginner. Let's start with the top. Stitch, made by Borka Blades. Borka Blades is Sebastian Berengi, right? So he's a custom knife maker. He started a company called Borka Blades. There's a lot of stuff there. You know, he worked closely with Jeff and Tough Thumbs and John Gray Knives. He's kind of part of that whole, kind of weird to call it a school, but it almost was, right? It was like this small collective of makers that sprung out of that area. And he was one of those. He hung out at the shop. He learned a lot from those guys. And then he went on to be super successful with Borka Blades. Now, you may know Borka Blades and this logo from Microtech. So after Sebastian had been making knives for a while, this was his flagship knife, the Stitch, he became friends with Tony Marfione of Microtech, and they started to do collaborations. And so that's where you get the Auto Stitch from Microtech and the manual Ramlock stitch from Microtech. And that's also where you'll see knives very similar to this that are Marfione Borka Blades collaboration customs. Now, I'll talk about that here in a minute because it's a little bit unique for Microtech, and I find that quite interesting. I wish I had one of those, but once again, very expensive, very highly sought after, very, very expensive. So that's Borka Blades, because I posted pictures of this in the past, and I could tell that some people were a little confused on, Microtech, Stitch, what is this? People were like, I didn't know Microtech made a titanium frame lock. And so that's what it is. This is the OG. This is a custom made by Sebastian under Borka Blades. So this is under his own name, made by him, put together by him, but he also collaborates heavily with Microtech in productions and customs. So that's where all that comes from. So flagship model, Stitch, it comes in a bunch of varieties, all basically very similar to this, same basic shape, opening hole, same basic blade shape. Sometimes you'll get a rock pattern like this. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll get grinds like this. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll get a swedge up at the top here to match this. In this case, you don't. This one just goes rock pattern all the way up to the top. So a bunch of different varieties, bunch of different handle finishes, cosmic, bark, apocalyptic, you name it. He does it all. He also does different backspacer sculpting. This one is not sculpted. It's just, I assume, anodized dark. And then this one has the orange peel finish on there, which I really, really like. Sculpted clip, all that stuff. So yeah, different varieties. But yes, Borka Blade Stitch. Let's get some size stuff going on here. It might be cool to compare this to an actual stitch. Not an actual stitch. This is the actual stitch. We'll compare it to a production Ramlock stitch here in a second. So what is this? Like 3 3/4, 3.5 inch blade. Overall length is just over 8.5 inches. So nice medium sized knife, which is part of the reason it's so popular. Kind of just appeals to a lot of people. People that like smaller knives, it's on the larger side for them, but it's still within reason. And people that like really big knives, still big enough that it makes them happy. So here it is compared to a Paramilitary 2. As you can see, it is a little bit bigger. And then here it is compared to a Ramlock stitch. Basically the same size, right? That's the point. There is some cool stuff with this. I do want to talk about this Microtech collaboration. Don't let me forget. So comment down below. Don't forget to talk about the Microtech stuff, because it's kind of interesting. It's a little bit different. Both the production and the custom Microtech collaborations, they did it differently, and I think I know why. I could be wrong, but I think I know why. Let's do a weight comparison between these two. Why not? It wasn't supposed to be a comparison video, but here we are. That's how this channel goes. 7.1 ounces, so pretty heavy. Beefy boy. 6.4. So, interesting, right? Interesting. Says an M390 blade, M390 steel blade. You can see hollow ground right there. You can see the light kind of bending up and down there. The grind lines done by Sebastian. Now, in terms of like how these are made, you know, it used to be what we would call custom knives were all handmade, right? Using hand tools, they'd cut everything out. Now that's not really expected so much. So I'd assume that all the basic parts have all been water jet or laser cut out, and then he comes in and finishes it and tunes it and does all the, I don't know if he does the contouring or what, but really nice. You've got orange peel with that really shiny orange peel. Now, orange peel was really popular like 10 years ago, and then it seems like it's kind of died out. So I want it to come back. Let's bring it back. Orange peel is really cool. It looks beautiful. It is a little slick. Looks beautiful. It actually hides scratches very, very well. It's a surprising characteristic. Something to do with the finish on here creates, I assume, kind of a harder layer on top, because it's really hard to scratch orange peel titanium compared to just raw titanium or any other finishes. So that's pretty cool. Anodized pivot collar right there. You can see just how well it's done. Everything is chamfered. Everything is soft. These are all inset. The body screws are all inset. You've got an over travel right here. I mean, just the work on this thing, it's so precise. Orange peel on the backspacer as well, anodized dark. I mean, just look how everything is chamfered and nice. The pocket clip works so well. It's offset from this cutout so it doesn't get bunched in your pocket like a Strider would. Done so nice. No, perfectly centered. No slop. No detent play. Lockup is all nice. It's running on bearings. It has a steel race or a steel washer in between the titanium and the bearings so that it's not running directly on the titanium. Action is really, really nice. Uses thumb stud stops here. So this pin, the only critique I would give on this knife, which I don't think is a very valid critique, but typically when you have stop pins that are used as the blade stops like this, you would actually press in a solid piece, right? You'd press it through the steel. That's how you'd get that fitment, and it would be a solid piece of steel. These are actually more like thumb studs where they screw in. Now they're completely shouldered within the steel here, but I don't know. If I had to do a mechanical critique, like a engineering type, how it's put together critique, that would be it. I don't love how these are screwed in on each side and are acting as the only blade stops here. But you can see how well that's shouldered, like just perfectly shouldered. So the contact on the back here is just complete, like just nice and nestled. You're not going to get any wear from these hitting this and kind of creating a divot and then the blade seating back further, anything like that. Just perfectly done, perfectly done. Perfect lockup. You can see right there, nice and early, but not scary early. As it wears in, it'll probably move a tad, but the lock geometry is just done so well. Like, even if I move this out here, it's very little movement, meaning it's just, you can see how it's just slightly angled, right? Just barely. You can almost not even see that it's angled. And so that means this isn't like jamming into some right? It's not like hitting this and like jamming into it and then creating this really big stress point, which will then kind of wear and move in. It's like, it's more like this. Like it's just a lot of contact at a very slight angle. It's just done really well. Done really, really well. Ceramic detent ball in here. There's no lock bar insert, which you don't typically see in American-made, smaller batch knives, custom knives, whatever you want to call it. Some do. Some do that, but most just do the titanium. But if you do a lock face correctly like this, I mean, it's going to last a lifetime, right? It's never going to wear out. Really, really nice. Done very, very well. Absolutely love this knife. Ergonomics is really cool. It just kind of has that simple blade shape. And this is a knife where I don't know if I loved it at first. I'm trying to think back to when I first saw the Stitch. It was probably the Stitch Auto from Microtech, to be honest. I didn't fall in love with it. It was a little off-putting to me. But the more I'm exposed to it, the more I really, really enjoy it. You can see it's got this troil here, but it's not nearly as big and obnoxious as the manual Ramlock Stitch. But then it has a sharpening trail here as well, which is interesting. So very, very cool. Very nice knife. I really, really like it. If you get a chance to snag a real Stitch, don't hesitate. Go ahead and pick one up. I think you're really going to like it. I was surprised with the action, to be honest. I didn't know what to expect. I really wasn't in the market for one. I always thought they were just too much. And it's not so much dollar amount, just too much for what I thought they were. I was like, that's not going to be something I get into, is getting a Borka Stitch. Not in the cards, but I ended up snagging this one, and I was really surprised with the action. I was expecting it to be on washers. I was expecting it to be more of a slow roll type knife. I don't know why. That's just what I thought. I thought it'd be more akin to like a Strider or something. So when I got it, and it was running on bearings and just super smooth and super snappy action, as well as being lighter than I expected because of the wonderful contouring on the scales there. I fell in love. I really, really like it. I may try to pick up another one at some point. I would like to get one with the swedge up top, or there's just so many. There's just so many cool ones that he does. Or maybe one that's more like apocalyptic across the board. I don't know. But let's talk about Microtech collaboration. Or actually, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to do that in a separate video. No one's even going to make it that far if I leave it in this one. So, Stitch from Borka Blades. Really cool. Really, really nice knife. I think the prices are coming down, right? He, similar to like Chavez, right? Do I have a Chavez around here? Here we go. Here's a Chavez 228, American made. Similar to Chavez, he's been doing custom knives for a long time, right? The Redención, Liberation, Scapegoat. He's been doing custom knives. That's how he started, just like Sebastian. And then instead of doing like a big scale collaboration, he started his own overseas production company with the Ultramar series. That made it far more affordable and accessible to the masses. That put his name on the radar. Everybody knew Chavez knives. And then that caused his customs to go through the roof, right? And those are settling down too. So true Chavez customs, which isn't this, right? I'm pointing at this, but it's not this. True Chavez customs are starting to settle down. And I think the same thing for Sebastian, because similar type story, right? He's plugging away, he's doing his Stitch, he had his followers, people that liked him. But it wasn't until he started working with Microtech and he blew up and became a household name, did things kind of really go crazy. And I think it's starting to calm down a little bit. It'll take time. It takes time for these things to come down. Because usually what happens is knives start switching hands. They go for a little bit less. Somebody sells it and they take a little dive, and then that person has it for a while and they sell it and they take a little dive. Flash forward a year later and prices have gone down significantly. So that's what I predict. We'll see if that's true. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm Knife-Stradamus. But we'll see what happens. All right, guys, comment down below. What do you think of the Stitch? Do you think it's as cool as I think it is? Because I think it's pretty dang cool. All right, guys, I'm out.